Have you ever tried to form a new habit and failed? I have. But what if I told you there is a way to make them so irresistible that you don't want to stop? Throughout my carnivore journey and reading Atomic Habits, I've discovered some of the secrets that have helped me instill some amazing habits and continue to do them. Stick around to figure out how you can apply these secrets to your own life. In today's video, we'll cover Chapter 8 of Atomic Habits by James Clear and how to make a habit irresistible. Before we can understand how to make a habit irresistible, we first have to understand what is irresistibility. What causes that? What causes cravings? All of these are the fundamental basics of us understanding them to create amazing habits. On the topic of irresistibility, cravings, it all boils down to motivation. So what motivates us? Well, there was a scientist named Nico Tinbergen, and he discovered with the red herrings that the mothers would have a red dot on their beak. When the mother would come to feed them, they would peck at that red dot. So he took cardboard cutouts of beaks and discovered that the larger he made the red dot, the more likely the little bird was to peck at the spot. They also discovered when they put multiple ones on them, they went crazy pecking at the cardboard beak. Well, what does that actually mean? Well, for them, the red dot was a biological motivator to tell the mom to be fed. So they wanted to be fed, they pecked the red dot. But what does that have to do with us? Well, we have instincts, just like other animals do. The red dot was instinctual for the red herrings. There are other geese and birds that when they see round objects near their nest, they roll them back on and they lay on top of them. It is instinctual. I see a round object, I must roll it back to the nest and lay on top of it. Cravings, motivation, a lot of them are instinctual. And how this pertains to humans is we've spent thousands of years foraging and hunting for food. Nowadays, we don't have to do that. We literally go to the grocery store. Our instincts are eat food, store food. We might not have food tomorrow, but that's not the case anymore, is it? We literally just go to the grocery store. We go to fast food. We go to restaurants if we want things. But instincts are eat food in front of you, store that food. So we know our basic instincts are eat what's in front of us. We might not have something to eat tomorrow. And the problem is marketing and food industries have taken this to the nth degree of twisting and manipulating to get their products sold. A primary goal of food science is to create products that are more attractive to consumers. Nearly every food in a bag, box, or jar has been enhanced in some way, if only with additional flavoring. Companies spend millions of dollars to discover what the most satisfying level of crunch in a potato or the perfect amount of fizz in a soda. Entire departments are dedicated to optimizing how a product feels in your mouth, a quality known as oral sensation. French fries, for example, are a potent combination of golden brown, crunchy on the outside, where light and smooth on the inside. Other processed foods enhance dynamic contrast, which refers to items with a combination of sensations, like crunchy and creamy. Imagine the gooiness of a melted cheese on top of a crispy pizza crust, or the crunch of an Oreo combined with its smooth center. With natural, unprocessed foods, you tend to experience the same sensations over and over. How's that 17th bite of kale taste? Not very good. After a few minutes, your brain loses interest and you begin to feel full. But foods that are high in dynamic contrast keep the experience novel, interesting, and encouraging you to eat more. Ultimately, the strategies enabled food scientists to find the bliss point for each product, the precise combination of salt, sugar, and fat that excite your brain and keeps you coming back for more. Okay, so we know our instincts are to eat the food that is available because we may not have any food tomorrow. That's just instincts of humans because our bodies do not want to starve to death. Imagine that. Now we have modern food sciences that have gone above and beyond to make things look good, smell good, taste good, and have that perfect bliss point, as he says. No wonder we have gotten as fat as we have. Pairing high fat, high carb, high sugar in all these foods. Look at some of the Oreos. Look at all of these different kinds of foods. They are high in everything. they become very energy dense. It's not just food that this is done with. Social media, getting praises and likes, mannequins at the store, various different things in society where they create a hyper reality, the most ideal version but it's not realistic. Same thing with foods. These hyper-palatable foods, if you broke them down into their counterparts, none of them would taste good. They have to be combined together, chemically altered, that triggers our instinctual desire to consume more. How does this have anything to do with making habits more attractive? Well, now we can understand why we are so attracted and have developed such bad habits around food. They have made it the most attractive as possible. How do we combat that? How do we change that? And how do we make habits that are better for us? The next step we need to understand is dopamine. Dopamine is our motivation molecule. Most people think dopamine is that reward that we get after we do something. Dopamine is released right before we get our reward. Not after, not during the reward phase, right before. It is what controls desire. James Clear talks about in the book how they put some electrodes in some rats' brains and completely blocked off dopamine from going anywhere in the brain. So essentially, they neutralized dopamine in the mind. Rats didn't want to do anything. They didn't want to eat. They didn't want to move. They didn't want to play. They actually died of thirst, most of them, after 3 to 4 days of not having any dopamine. Their desire to do anything was gone. Now, during this experiment, they actually kept the dopamine down and out of the system, then gave them sugar. Well, when they gave them the sugar, they actually had their brain light up like they were getting a reward. So they still experienced pleasure from the sugar, but they didn't have the drive to get more. They did the reverse of this. They then gave a ton of amount of dopamine to the rats. They found that when they trained the rats to stick their nose through a hole, they would get rewarded. Normal levels of dopamine, they would do it intermittently. When they increased their levels of dopamine, some of the rats got up to 800 times per hour. They would stick their nose through the hole to get that reward. The dopamine was driving them. So pretty much the breakdown of the experiment is the dopamine isn't about the reward. It's about wanting the reward. Dopamine is what creates desire to drive us forward. Well, we can utilize that when we want to create habits. We want to create the habit. Utilize that dopamine mechanism is key for us to do. Now we've gotten to the part of the video of where let's talk about how to actually implement this, because this is important, right? Actually utilizing what we've learned. There was an electrical engineer student that had decided he had had enough with binging Netflix. So he wrote a program, connected his bike, and made it where any time he stopped pedaling at a certain rate, the Netflix show would turn off. He paired wanting to watch TV with something he needed to do, which was riding the stationary bicycle. This is how we make things irresistible. We pair what we want with what we need to do. By doing this, it's called temptation bundling. And what that looks like is you do habit stacking. We've already covered that earlier in the chapter 5, and temptation bundling. After whatever your current habit is, I will do the habit I need to. That's habit stacking. The temptation bundling is after the habit I need to do, I will do the habit I want to do. Here's some examples. After I get my morning coffee, I will say one thing I'm grateful for that happened yesterday. After I say one thing I'm grateful for, I will read the news, the thing you want to do. Another example, after I get back from my lunch break, I'll call 3 potential clients. After I call the 3 potential clients, I'll check ESPN, the thing you want to do. You put what you need to do in front of what you want to do. Something for me is I really don't like getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning and going to the gym, but I love doing the morning mile with the dogs. So I did this. I did the habit stacking, and then I did the temptation bundling. When I get up in the morning, I get dressed and I go to the gym. That's it. And then my reward is when we come home, we immediately turn the coffee pot on, which is also a reward for me, and walk the dogs for their morning mile. This is the habit I've developed. Go to gym, walk dogs, get my coffee. I've paired all of these and I've made it irresistible. Why? Because to get the dog walk and get the coffee, I have to go to the gym. It's that simple. And it's all about practicing. And also, in the last video, we also talked about pairing things that work well together. You don't want to pair something that you need to do with something that isn't going to motivate you to do what you need to do. In this case, that electrical engineer, he paired riding his bike with Netflix. Well, that works perfectly. What else are you going to do when you're on the stationary bicycle? Stare at the wall? Well, why not stare at Netflix if that's what you want to do? Find things that you can pair well together. So now that we know you can do habit stacking and the temptation bundling, you just have to sit down and figure out what your habits are day to day and what kind of habits you want to create. Pair, match them, then implement them. Something I strongly suggest is don't do too many at a time. It really works best if you focus on just one or two habits that you're trying to improve so you don't get overwhelmed with all this newness and you can get something down pat. The morning mile, it started off as pairing it with coffee. Had to do the morning mile before I could have coffee. But now, because I've done it so much, I actually crave and want to do it every single day. That is what happens is when you do things repetitively, I get that dopamine spike when I'm putting my shoes on, even before we do it. I get a dopamine spike that says, yeah, Amanda, you're going and taking the dogs for a walk. This is also why I suggest if walking, you guys have heard me say this a lot. Even if you can't walk very far, get dressed, get up, walk for a minute. You get that dopamine high just getting dressed and getting ready. It doesn't have to be the actual walking. If you can go further, please do. But you do what you can do and where you can start. Give yourself these small wins, these dopamine highs, because they are what motivate you to do other things. Winners win, losers lose. I never truly understood that till I really wrapped my mind around this dopamine loop. Every time we give ourselves a little win, we feel better about ourselves. We feel like winners because we are winning, no matter how small the task is. But every time we fail, when you fail, do you want to keep failing? Nah, you just want to stop. And if you stop, then you start losing. So keep that in mind. Winners win, losers lose. Do the small things every single day. They don't have to be big wins. Organizing your desk, putting up laundry, they don't even have to be around food, but they will dramatically impact your diet and how you see and feel about yourself. Off my soapbox. I appreciate you guys so very much. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Growing my channel has helped me reach so many people, and that is my goal. My goal is to share my journey and reach those who are struggling and suffering. Thanks, guys, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.